Hi, everybody. I'm Jessica McNulty. I'm the owner of Red Helmet Training, and thank you for being part of the Driven to be an Engineer program today. And I wanted to stop by. Usually, I stop by this class every single time that it's running, but unfortunately, I am stuck in a hotel room, so I couldn't make it to this class. But this program, we've been doing it for a couple of years now. We took this process from Darren Hall from the Coronado Fire Department. He had taught a small segment at Firehouse World and Firehouse Expo a couple of times called Driven to be an Engineer. And we were lucky enough to grab a hold of that program from Darren and push it forward with the help of Christian Adams from Riverside City Fire Department. And Christian's done a great job on building this program out, and it's been fairly successful in getting candidates prepared for the engineer's exam. But want to stop by and talk about a couple different things. I get to teach our coach program a couple times every year, our company officer assessment center help program. And there's a couple things that go from that captain's type of test and rolls over to the engineer's exam that I want to talk about. So the first one being that when you set up for the promotional exam, it's very common that that morning the candidates will be in one room with the training officer and the proctors will be in another room. And during that morning session, the training officer will come over and meet with the proctors, give them some grading formats or rules of the test process, and then they'll probably kind of go over some stations where you're going to be and things like that. And during this time frame, it's very common that the fire chief is over with the candidates, welcoming them to the testing process, thanking them for being there, and maybe even giving them some insight on what they want from a future engineer from their department. And then somewhere during that time frame, they switch rooms. So the fire chief comes over with the proctors, the training officer goes over with the candidates and starts lining them out for the day. So now it's important to understand that when that fire chief comes over to the room with the proctors, it's very common that there's one thing that that fire chief will tell the proctors, whether it's for a captain's exam or an engineer's exam, is that if you wouldn't want this person to be a captain or an engineer with your fire department, please don't make them one with mine. So what does that mean for you as a candidate taking a promotional exam is that you don't want to be a person that's just barely passing. If the passing score is 80 and you are an 82, it's very quick that that score becomes a 78 because you're just barely passing or you're right in that mediocre frame that they don't want to put you in the seat if you're possibly not ready. And most fire chiefs don't have a problem with just waiting it out and, well, better luck next time and we'll get you the next test. And also most candidates that are barely passing, even though they might end up failing in the end, the next time they take that test, they are much better prepared from everything we've seen. So sometimes it doesn't hurt for us to just kind of fail a candidate if they're just kind of barely on that brink. The other thing for you that's important to understand with that is the proctors are in that same boat. They want you to succeed. They're there to help you to succeed. They don't want to see you fail. They're there to kind of hope that you're doing well. However, that only goes so far. They want you to succeed until you don't. So what does that mean is if you're doing a portion of the test and you're not doing that well, they're not going to waste their time or take their time trying to kind of help push you through because most of these proctors that come in are taking their own time, volunteering. Most fire departments trade proctors back and forth, kind of do some bartering back and forth. And they're not going to waste their time on somebody that's not doing well on the test. What that really means is if you are like in an oral interview process, you are on question number 7 of 10 in an oral interview. And question number 7 is a multi-part question or a 2-part question. And you forget to answer the second part. Well, if you're doing well, then they might say, you know, hey, Frank, you forgot to answer the second part of the question. And they'll throw you that bone and give you an opportunity to answer the second part of the question. If you're not doing well, then they'll quickly just move on. And they'll just move on past the, answering that second part. So keeping as much as you can in the good gracious arena of the proctors is huge for you going into this exam. The other one in the engineer's exam, because the big thing, the difference between a captain's exam and an engineer's exam is subjective versus objective. You going into the engineer's exam, it's very much, this is the pressure that you're going to be pumping at. There's really not that many variables to it. So you have a lot more things that you have to get nailed down. You can't have a lot of philosophies or things that you think, because there's only one right answer or within so many pieces of that. So you have to do a lot more studying in the engineer's exam when it comes to stuff like that. And knowing your figures and knowing your numbers and knowing your data, your specifications and things like that. The other one I want to talk about in the engineer's exam is what I call the fallacies of the test. And this happens both in the captain's test and the engineer's exam. And these are things that the person that put the test together might not have thought about, or accidentally put something in there that creates a problem for the test. And the weird thing about that is it might be something that they did wrong when they built the test, and we might not even notice it at the beginning. We might be running the test for a while, and then the third or fourth candidate, we figure out that there's a problem with the test. And the crazy thing is for the next several candidates that come in, even if it's wrong, we have to continue it that way to make sure that it's a valid test, and that none of the candidates had a different type of test. So give you a prime example. We were doing an engineer's exam. We were doing the pumping evolution. And this pumping evolution was getting a pre-connect line flowing, getting water going, getting your supply line hooked up, doing a changeover, and then from there, you were going to get a dismounted monitor in service. And the weird thing about it is all the other exams we have done in the past, the proctor had a card that said how many feet of 4-inch hose was going to the dismounted monitor and what tip size was out on the monitor and things like that. And they would hand this card to the candidate. So you got 350 feet of 4-inch going to a dismounted monitor with a 1 3/4 tip, or whatever the tip size was. And for some reason for this exam, this proctor didn't hand them over the card. They read the card to the candidate. Now the pump was already kind of screaming a little bit because we're getting some pressure going. We've already done a changeover. So there's some audible stuff that's going on, trying to discuss this over the pump. And on top of that, the proctors and the people that were putting the test together that day, they didn't want to put 350 feet of 4-inch on the ground because they'd have to pick it up at the end of the day. So they only put 150 feet of 4-inch on the ground. So what that led to is if you didn't actually hear exactly how many feet of hose on the ground, or in real life, what you commonly would do is you're going to go out there and count couplings. So now if you thought maybe you heard 350, but you're counting 150, or you didn't hear the 350 at all, when it all came down to it, some of the candidates were looking at 150 feet of 4-inch instead of the 350 feet, which obviously threw off their calculations. So things like that you want to be prepared for, and ask questions. Most of the time with these engineers exam, the time doesn't start until you touch something on the panel. So before you get started, ask as many questions as you can or want to. Don't stall, don't delay the test, but if there's questions you need to ask, get those out at the beginning. On top of that, they're usually going to give you a chance to look at your pump, make sure everything's set right. It's very common that either on purpose or on accident, a bleeder valve will be open, or the pressure regulator will be taken all the way down, something like that, to where you can't throttle up. There's a lot of things that it could have been something that they're actually trying to screw you, so you have to troubleshoot, or the candidate previous to you actually did something with that and it didn't get reset properly. So make sure you take the time, check out your pump, make sure all the bleeders are closed, make sure everything's set properly prior to you starting the test. So those are a couple of nuggets. I'm sure Christian probably has covered some of that, but I just want to, again, thank you for taking the class. If you have any questions, by all means, give me a call, let me know, and good luck in your future endeavors to your promotional needs. All right. Thank you again for visiting Red Helmet Training, and we will see you in the classroom again soon. Bye.